I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap, gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Gay. Frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like the frogs. Gay. Friggin' frogs. Frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Frogs. Place point.
The frogs. Think of the frogs. Why don't you? What
was that migraine we were talking about?
Yeah, if that. Who needs it when they're turning the freaking frogs gay? Well, welcome back to Paranormally Correct. What is the next thing I usually say? Something about how I'm the host, and this is my other host.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, totally. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Don't get eaten by dog man.
That was the show, and we're out. No, seriously. Okay, yeah, for real though, we got a cool show tonight. We're gonna wait around just a minute or two and do like some small talk while some people come in. Maybe I'll just play the frog video again because that's how much I love it. No more frog video?
No.
All right, I guess we'll let Alex have a rest.
Thank you.
He deserves it. We deserve it. All right, so I have no idea if there's any paranormal news. I guess we could talk about some paranormal news. You heard any paranormal news?
I heard a freaking dog mountain sound earlier that scared the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, that was wild AF. Was that recent?
It was just posted up on Reddit. But I don't know when the video was taken.
Yeah. I didn't get a good listen to it. I played it a couple times over, and I might have to pull that up again later. If it wouldn't be such a catastrophe, I'd try to pull it up here. But so last week, here's a funny story for you guys. Was that last week already? Holy shit. Yeah, I guess it was last Thursday. We did an aliens something or another. We're talking about, you know, how there was the congressional hearing about the UAPs. YouTube took my video down. They wouldn't let it stay up. They took it down. I am not entirely sure why. I think they felt like I was misrepresenting things. I feel like I was being very non-misrepresentative. I guess that doesn't matter. So sorry, that video is gone forever. I don't know if I'll put it back up. I do have a copy of it saved. So I don't know, maybe I'll edit the video and repost it. Maybe I'll just make like a produced video where I sit down and do like a reaction to it and then edit the video and throw it back up. But yeah, so if you missed that one, it's gone forever. Anyway, doesn't look like there's a whole...
The Pentagon did admit that
UAPs
are a thing, so
they totally did. And that's like, that's the weird part about YouTube having a problem with that video was like, I don't know. Whatever. It's not the first time.
Stupid Susan.
God damn it, Susan. But there is a lot of like that type of stuff in the news right now. There's, let's see, high-res version of 70s UFO photograph. Let's take a look at that, I reckon, because that's kind of cool. Pull that up. It's pretty neat. Wish I could zoom in on stuff on here. Share screen. I hate how slow this process is. So I know that's like super small. Let me see if I can. No, that doesn't really. It doesn't really help any. Anyway, the story behind this, taken from a plane in 1971, the image shows what appears to be a metallic saucer flying through the air. Having been the subject of intrigue and debate for several decades, this fascinating UFO photograph has been recently brought back into the limelight thanks to enthusiast Esteban Carranza. I can't pronounce that because I can't roll my tongue. And I think you're supposed to. Who was able to secure the original image and publish a high-resolution version online. So somewhere there's probably a big, better-looking version than this little small, tiny JPEG, unfortunately, that I have pulled up here. So if you want to go looking for it and check it out, it looks pretty sweet from where I'm sitting. Hopefully it's coming across on screen okay.
Yeah, just small.
It looks like a cymbal off of a drum set. That's pretty cool. It says, what was it?
I said, yes, it does. It looks like a symbol.
Yeah. I'm guessing they might have rezzed it up a little bit. It says the original image was captured by the National Geographic Institute of Costa Rica in 1971 when aerial photographer Sergio Loaiza used an automated camera to take snaps from 10,000 feet. Nothing was seen at the time, but when the photographs were examined afterwards, that's always how it goes. One of them included a mysterious metallic disc that nobody was able to explain. That is cool as shit. UFO researchers Ricardo, I cannot pronounce things, Vilches, Dr. Richard Haynes, and Dr. Jacques Vallée later played down the likelihood that the image showed anything otherworldly. However, the picture has still remained a topic of discussion and debate all throughout the years. I don't know, like how are you going to be like, yeah, that's not a UFO. It's nothing to worry about. Just don't even just throw the picture away, guys. You don't even need to keep that one. Like what? I don't understand. I don't understand. What is it with people? It's like sometimes, no matter how good your paranormal evidence is, there will always be a couple of D-bags who are like, yeah, no, it's nothing. Don't even go there. It's nothing.
Right.
And it's like, what more do you need? This was taken in 1971. Like, it's not
Couldn't have been
Photoshop.
a big radar dish.
I mean, from what I'm looking at here, it looks like it's not that far below the aircraft where the pictures were being shot from. So I don't know how it would have been anything like attached to the ground or, and in fact, I think that's water beneath it. That's a really cool shot. And of course, people are like, no,
it is a cool shot.
Yeah. Definitely aliens, as per usual. Hello, Cryptid.
Hi, Cryptid.
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's
aliens. It's aliens.
Let's see. A deceased woman bangs on the lid of her own coffin. That one sounds a little too extravagant for my taste. A woman gets stuck after falling headfirst down a toilet. I mean, that happens to the best of us. Rare 17th century book on alien life discovered. Oh, this is interesting. Let's check this out. Oh, cool. If I just close the tab, it automatically stops screen sharing. That's handy. We're going to get to the topic for tonight in a little bit. I know that like a lot of people tell me that they don't get notifications for my live streams until about 30 minutes in, which is redonkulous. But we're going to kill just a little bit of time, just a few more minutes, probably like another 5 minutes or so, talking about paranormal news. And hopefully some people will get the notifications, because Susan doesn't allow my subscribers to get my notifications. God damn it, Susan. You know what I love? I love it when random people come out of nowhere and claim that they've been abducted hundreds of times by aliens. And sometimes they even have stories about, like, I don't know, like that one guy I talked about on the channel one time. He said he got molested by aliens. Yeah, cryptid, I know. Everybody tells me that they get 0 notifications for my videos. It's insane. I love it, though. I love that for us when we get, these people coming for us. So a 58-year-old who now resides in Philly, North Yorkshire, claims that he has been abducted by extraterrestrials several dozen times over the last 4 decades. His first experience happened at the age of 16 while he was riding home on his motorbike. He recalled going through a tunnel and ending up in a room like a dentist's office, where he encountered 15-foot humanoid entities who were like Dracula but without the sharp teeth. He claims that the alien visitors recruited him to participate in an intergalactic war.
That escalated.
It did. It went from 0 to 60 real fast. I might have been with him there for a minute until he's like, it just kept getting crazier. It's like old men with like a trout story. You know how like they catch a trout and every time they retell the story, the fish gets bigger.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with aliens. Okay, here's a quote. I had some sort of tube pushed down my throat, and whatever liquid they pumped into me, it turned me into one of their super soldiers. For the past 30 years, I have been part of their army fighting the opposing race, the Dragos, which are tall and scaly. Oh, this is very timely for tonight's topic. With heads like dragons. Okay, I'm going to turn my microphone. It's going to make a big weird fart noise. No, it's not. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure, because it's all the way on the other side of the desk, because I know I laugh like a horse. I've been gone for years, and people don't realize as 4 hours here is 4 years on one of the planets I've been to. In addition to taking part in numerous intergalactic battles, Kellett also claims to have met up with other abductees aboard the alien spacecraft, including fellow UFO enthusiast and singer Robbie Williams. I would rather get my truth out there rather than other people's lies, he said. I don't think that makes a lot of sense, but that's a direct quote from him. Oh, wow. That is interesting. That is really cool. Would your friend want to come on the show and talk about that by any chance?
That would be very interesting.
I've never had an alien abductee come on the show before. I would love to have one. That would be amazing. So, what do you think, Rebecca? You think this guy's been fighting Star Wars battles in space?
I think he's got his own truth, and it might require medication.
You know what my first thought is always like, when people tell these really outlandish paranormal stories, like the really outlandish ones, and then I giggle and tee-hee when I talk about it on the channel, I always think, like, what if they're serious? They're 100% telling the truth and totally serious, and here I'm like tee-heeing and guffawing at their story and thinking that, maybe they did too much acid in the 70s. I hope that he's been fighting intergalactic battles against reptilians. that sounds exciting as hell.
That whole being away from 4 weeks is 4 years. I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, I know, right? That's wild. All right, so it's been about 15 minutes on the topic of reptilians. What are we talking about tonight? We're talking about reptilians tonight, but that's not all we're talking about. We're talking about all conspiracies. We're going to try to bounce around the conspiracy sphere and touch on as many topics as humanly possible. And we're going to try to do it in an interesting and critical manner. Hopefully. That's the plan. And since that guy's been battling reptilians in space, there is no better segue, I think, than that. To start off with reptilians. What do you think about reptilians, Rebecca?
I don't believe in them. I asked my best friend about it, and he was like, of all the crazy shit that's out there, I wish that one was true. He's like, I want a dinosaur. That's what I think of every time cryptid is V. Great show. Great science fiction show.
I think I must have missed that one. I'll have to look that up.
They remade it, 10 years ago? The old one had Robert Englund in it, the guy who played Freddy Krueger. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was in it.
I'll have to look that up.
It's very good.
So my take on reptilians, as always, I'm on the fence, sort of, kind of. So I know a guy who claims he's the only person that I've ever met and ever talked to who claims to have seen a reptilian with his own eyes, and is actually the producer for the original Paranormally Correct back when it was a radio talk show. He was a producer. He was a total geeky nerd IT guy, super, technical brained, logical type of person. Not the type of person who would claim to see something just for shiggles, right? And so I always think about his reptilian sighting. And it wasn't even I don't even want to say sighting, because it was like an up close encounter, according to him, with a reptilian. And him and his wife both saw it, I guess. And they said that they saw it materialize, and then they saw it basically dematerialize and vanish. And they, typical reptilian description of a reptilian. And I always think about that, because I feel like I always think about sources, I guess, the source of, what does a person have as far as motivation goes to come up with a story like that, right? And he didn't really have any type of motivation. Wasn't going to get him a TV show or anything like that. So I took him seriously at the time, but I struggle to believe in reptilians. Now, I've often wondered if what he saw was just a ghost, or I don't know, maybe just maybe it was a extraterrestrial encounter, but not necessarily a scaly lizard person who puts on a human suit and invades local government, but I always think about it. It's always in the back of my mind every time I talk shit about reptilians. Having said that, though, there are a lot of crazy stories out there about reptilians. And it's funny, too, how they are such a big common thread amongst all of the modern conspiracy theories. They pop up, the concept of these creatures pops up in almost every modern conspiracy theory. And they have for probably 10 years or more. So I think that's really interesting. And I wonder, is there a compromise of maybe this creature exists? Maybe not to the extent that people claim that it does. Maybe it doesn't have maybe they're not infiltrating the government. Maybe they're just a creature like Dogman, you know?
Mhm.
I also think about like the Loveland frog. You familiar with that?
Mm-mm.
So this is one that Jody's talked about a few times when he's come on the stream for an interview. Two cops back in the 70s or 80s, I'm not sure exactly on the date, they ran across a giant frog one night. I guess they were like highway patrolmen or whatever, and they had an encounter with what would become the Loveland frog. There's really not much to the story. It's considered a cryptid, and I think it was in, was that Ohio?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I'd look it up, but did you look it up? So it is.
I did.
Okay, yeah. So it is Ohio. You know, and if you watch videos where they talk about like cryptids by state, the Loveland frog will always come up. Could that have been a reptilian? I have no idea.
4 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I love frogs. He can come live in my backyard.
I know. I'm such a frog fanatic. If I could have a room full of pet frogs, I would. Cryptid. That's a really good point. And this is something that I've talked about recently in my TikTok videos that I've been making about conspiracies. There have been, oh gosh, numerous ancient civilizations with like reptilian god-like statues, creatures, and stuff like that. Lots of references in ancient Egypt, references in
Asian cultures.
Mm-hmm. There is let me see if I can find that real quick. There's a place that has statues. Oh, is it Norway? Yeah, it is Norway. Okay, let me pull this up. Let me do a little screen share. So, reptilian statues in Norway. As you can see, there's a nice variety here. Lots of lizard people attacking people. Here's the guy throwing babies. Have you ever seen that one? Somebody made a meme out of that one several years ago. That was a pretty funny one. But yeah, these are really like, honestly, kind of creepy, strange statues. I can't remember. And I did look these up one time to see what the backstory was.
Jormungandr.
Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The Norse believe that is the world serpent. And one day he's going to have a fight with Thor that's going to destroy the world, which is known as Ragnarok.
Yeah. Now that one I know. And then, let's see, there are, I want to say that, didn't the Aztecs have like reptilian statues? I feel like they did.
There is where was it? Teotihuacan? No. Hang on, let me look it up.
I may be getting this mixed up with the legend of the reptilian
Chichen Itza. Down in Colombia, they have the city center, the Mayan, I believe it was, Mayan city center of Chichen Itza. And on the big temple at Chichen Itza, it's a step pyramid. And it's got on each side a sloping staircase. And at summer solstice, I believe it is, if you look at the side of the staircase from a certain angle, the steps of the pyramid make it look like there's a snake coming down the pyramid.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that. I've seen pictures of it. I'd love to see it in person.
Me too, but too many people.
Yeah. So obviously lots of references throughout history. However, having said that,
that sounds like a terrible statue.
That sounds like a statue I'd put in my front yard. That's interesting, though. I'll have to look that up because I didn't know that. What was I going to say? X-Files music is playing right now in my head. My thought just vanished. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So animal totems are obviously a thing. They've been a thing. My theory is that a lot of times when we see these types of statues and relics and stuff like that, they're totems. They're animal totems.
Right.
And, obviously you could take each independent circumstance, like, this culture, that culture, this time period, that time period, and you could research them and you could probably come to a pretty solid conclusion as to why they had this type of, reptilian looking statue. My theory is that, a lot of old civilizations used animal totems just, to represent power, strength, symbolize maybe even sometimes their tribes. There's a lot of different things that an animal totem can stand for, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily think that when we see reptilians referenced throughout history, throughout different cultures, or what we call reptilians, they didn't call them reptilians. We nowadays call them reptilians. But when we see lizard creatures, lizard people, hybrid chimera type things, it's not because they knew that these things existed and that they were like some alien race come here to dominate humans and enslave humans, like a lot of the conspiracy theories state. I think they were just totems. Does that make sense? I mean,
yeah. Well, in pre-Christian times, pre-missionary times, people, tribes of people that would be isolated from other cultures, they'll look around them and see the things that are in nature around them. And of course, they're going to have snakes and spiders and birds and whatever, like tigers, if that's what is in the area. And they're going to say, well, each one of these animals has a specific strength or something that represents something in all of them, in them personally.
Exactly.
That they can be guided by the wise owl and protected by the great serpent, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I feel like we can't look to history to verify anything about these creatures, whether they're real or not real, whether they are coming here from another planet or galaxy or universe to enslave us or not. The answer to that question cannot be found by looking back throughout history at, cultures and their use of animal chimera hybrid creatures and, statues and stuff. So I know a lot of people point to that, and that's one of their biggest pieces of evidence. I think that it's not evidence whatsoever. Yeah, we're actually going to talk about Bohemian Grove. And it's funny how, like, we're kind of already mixing in like Norse mythology too. Like it's kind of coming up, and Greek mythology comes up. All of these mythologies and things like that, they've kind of been transferred a little bit here and there all the way throughout history and spread across, different continents and different cultures. And things get carried over and passed into the future. So a lot of times the stuff is going to be tangled up. Now, I did a video a few years ago, and I don't know why I'm like targeting reptilians specifically for this, but I guess because they feel like such a big common thread in this tangled ball of conspiracy yarn. But I did a video a few years where I talked about the timeline that I had researched for when reptilians came into the mainstream. And as far as I could find, like what we know as reptilians today, not counting like what we just talked about, that aside, lizard people coming to dominate humans from another planet started with pulp fiction magazines back in the 40s, 50s, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they kind of found like a resurgence in pop culture by way of David Icke. So David Icke is a very problematic person, and we're going to talk about him several times throughout
That
the
is
night.
such a diplomatic way to put it.
He's a D-bag.
He's a British footballer who couldn't play football anymore, and so he started getting into crazy stuff and acting like a doofus.
Yeah, and there are a lot of words that we can't say on YouTube, as evidenced by last week. YouTube, took my video down, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful about what I say tonight. Maybe I'll just write words on like a sheet of paper and just hold them up. But we're going to say, now that like we're talking about David Icke, I'm just going to go ahead and say he is a person who disparages other groups of people based on traits that they can't help, inherent traits that they didn't choose. And hopefully you kind of get what I'm dancing around. Like, it sucks that I can't just say things outright, but hopefully that makes sense. He's a terrible person. And he's a very problematic person, and he's kind of like an old school Alex Jones, which I think
he probably at one time would have belonged in, Austria.
Exactly. So I think on TikTok they get around this by saying the word schnot. See, so hopefully, yeah.
Hi, JC.
He's a bad guy. We don't like David Icke. I like to call him Ick because
Same.
Yeah. Conspiracy theories are not coming true, and I'm going to convince you tonight. And that's one of the reasons that we're talking about this is like, it's become such a big thing in pop culture. And everybody these days believes in conspiracies, and it's really strange, super strange how, 25, 30 years ago, and I was just telling Rebecca this earlier, I grew up in the South, around a lot of like Bible Belt type of people who nowadays believe in the wildest of all conspiracies. But back then, when I was a kid, like in the 80s and 90s, they didn't believe in anything. They didn't even believe in things that were true. Some of them don't believe in dinosaurs, which I think Rebecca might find strange.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little earlier about how she's never met a Christian that doesn't believe in dinosaurs. They're out there, and there's more of them than you might care to know about.
How can you not believe in dinosaurs when there's fossilized proof everywhere?
Exactly. And that is the focus of this video, is like, how do we get from point A to point B? How did these people go from not believing in anything to suddenly believing in everything?
I've got to address something really fast.
Okay.
This flat earth thing that JT has brought up, the world is covered in 75% water, right? And that water is not carbonated, right? So technically the earth is flat, like a flat soda.
Is that a dad joke?
Yes, it is. Other than that, no. The earth is most definitely not flat.
So here's the question I like to pose to flat earthers. Why, if the earth is flat, are all of the other celestial bodies spheres or round balls? Why are they balls?
Did you know in the laws of physics that the easiest form for energy of any kind to take is a sphere?
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know bubbles.
I mean, I've seen other planets, and you're probably like, oh, how'd you do that? Well, let me tell you. I happened to join the astronomy club one night, and it was one of the coolest things that I've ever got to do at a college. And well, I've done lots of cool things at college, like drunken wipeout parties. No, not really. Yeah, we did go to the moon, but we'll get to that. We've got like a whole thing here. So flat Earth, though. Okay. there were two guys. One of them was from Germany, and the other one, I don't know where he was from. I don't think he was an American natural citizen. I think he was like, an expert scientist from some other country. But I actually spent more time talking to the German guy, and both of these guys had telescopes the size of cars. I don't know what these things were, but when I tell you, one of these things looked like it belonged on top of a tank. Holy cow. I've never in my life seen anything like it. And I was dying to look through it. And these things were so, they were able to create so much magnification that like one of the guys was having to guide it and move it for me to actually see one of the planets through it, because that's how zoomed in it was, is that I could actually feel like the earth turning when I looked through it because it would move. So he would adjust it real quick and he'd be like, hurry, 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 look, look, look. And so I would look and like he would try to like move it. It was like the most amazing experience. And I actually got to see with my own eyes round celestial bodies. So I know for a fact that other planets are round. What do you know as a flat earther about, you know what I mean? Like, have any flat earthers ever seen or had an experience like this? That's my question to flat earthers. That was all the proof I ever needed.
Right.
Like why would everything else be round and we would be flat? Also, I could go on like probably an hour-long diatribe about the part of the Bible that flat earthers take that information from and how wrong it's interpreted. Not to mention, I mean, you kind of have to believe the Bible to begin with, but we're not going to go down that road just yet. So I don't know. What do you think about flat Earth besides it being carbonated or not carbonated?
I absolutely believe that the Earth is round. I mean,
Now, I
for
will
me,
say
it's
this.
no question.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a no-brainer to me, but then I also had the privilege of having this particular experience that I can gauge my perception off of. And I know not everybody gets an opportunity like that, but maybe you could. Like, the flat earthers, I challenge you to go find an astronomy building on any college campus and contact them and ask them, like, when you guys bring out the telescopes the size of Buicks, can I come look at a planet? I mean, maybe that would prove to you that, because that's the experience that I had, and it was like amazing. And I've never been able to see anything else like it ever again, except for like pictures and stuff. But yeah, so flat Earth, we'll probably circle back around to that a little bit. So we're kind of hopping all over the place. Let's rewind back just a little and start kind of more centralized here. I want to talk about who believes in conspiracy theories. Why do people believe in conspiracy theories? What is their motivation to believe in conspiracy theories? Because one thing that I've noticed with this phenomenon is that there's a whole lot of information being thrown out there, but nobody's questioning information. So nobody's really saying like, like critical thinking, like looking at these pieces of information critically and saying, well, why is this, the truth? Who benefits from this? So we're going to kind of rewind back to that point and kind of start there. So who believes in conspiracy theories? What do you think, Rebecca? What's your opinion on this?
I think to some extent, everybody believes in something that can be considered a conspiracy theory. Now, not all of them are going to be about the Illuminati or aliens or anything like that. Some of them might be simple things that could actually have happened. Like I told you earlier, that I believe that General Patton was murdered. That's my belief, just from what I've learned about it. I believe that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone, and that he was mostly just a patsy for the whole thing. But as for reptilians, no, I'm not there.
Yeah.
All of the crazy QAnon stuff that I have seen, I am not there. There's just some things that, to my brain, it is not logical.
Right.
And it cannot ever be logical. Now, I can approach things skeptically and have the capacity to say, okay, I see your point. Let me research it and see how things go. But like the whole flat earth thing, the whole reptilian thing, that is not logical to me. My brain will never see it as logical. That is an improbable statement. So, yeah, that's just me. As for who else might believe in it, I don't know. I know there are some tinfoil hat wearing people that believe in stuff, but then there are some truly intelligent people who believe in other stuff.
So that's where I would disagree with you. And this, I don't think that people who are legitimately intelligent, critical thinkers buy into the modern conspiracy theories. Now, listen, there are tons of categories, lots of umbrellas. When you say conspiracy theories, you could mean anything from moon landing to QAnon to does the alien or the government know more about aliens than they say? There are different categories, right? So, but the conspiracy theories that are rampant in society today are like a special breed of conspiracy theories. They don't fit in with the old conspiracy theories. Now, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, way before the internet was a thing. I mean, obviously, it was a military use only thing, but it wasn't in people's households. And I was pretty much an adult before it was like common to have internet in your house. I think I was like 16, 17, something like that. Pretty much, could have lived on my own. Um, it's funny how news and information traveled back then as far as conspiracies. So for me as an old school conspiracy theorist, and when I say that I'm an old school conspiracy theorist, I mean I'm an observer, someone who took all this with a grain of salt because it was entertaining. And I always thought, conspiracies are like folklore. They're like urban legends. They're harmless theories that just get your brain to moving and thinking and, get the wheel spinning, the hamsters running. But at no point did it ever cross my mind that conspiracies should dominate my every waking moment. So, but when I think about like old conspiracies, I think about stuff like who built the pyramids. That's a cool topic. That's a cool one and a fun one to theorize on. At the end of the day, I don't think it really hurts anybody or any group of people or any branch of government or anything at all to theorize about who built the pyramids. And I think scientists theorize a lot or have in the past. Did they ever figure it out?
I think they did somewhat. I don't think we'll ever really know for sure. But
I've heard a lot of crazy theories from scientists about it too. So
it definitely wasn't, just slaves building things. Those people were well paid, they were well fed, and they were taken care of on a level that would make working in that desert sun from morning till night worth it.
right.
So,
And so going back to something that you said, I still think aliens did it. um, I think that aliens built a lot of old civilizations. And if someone were to ask me, like, how dead set are you on this conspiracy theory? I'm not dead set on it. It is what
Right.
it is. It's whatever. I mean, if the aliens did it, awesome. I knew it. I was right. If they didn't do it, that's cool too. But suddenly we went from cool story, bro, to this conspiracy is dominating my life and it's making me think dark, horrible thoughts and it's driving me to do things that are
Treat people
terrible.
bad and
Exactly. And hurting other groups of people because you don't like that kind of group of people. Like that's when it gets to that's the point that I'm talking about. So when I say that I don't think intellectual people observe and agree with or theorize in that category, I don't think they do. I think that you have to be predispositioned to something, but that's one of the things I want to figure out, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this video. It's like, who are these people? Why are these people perpetuating? Who, what, when, where, why, how? I always ask myself that. I think more people should ask themselves that, especially when it comes to conspiracy theories. So again, I don't think they're intellectual people. I don't think that they're well-educated people. What is their motivation? To put it bluntly, I'm just going to say hatred. I'm going to say that's my go-to thought. That's what I assume when I hear people propagate really dangerous, harmful conspiracy theories is hate. And then, of course, there are varying degrees of conspiracy theory, like I said. So, um, I always have trouble reading my own handwriting. Why did I write this? I should have typed it out. Okay, so having said that, I think it's interesting how conspiracy theories spread. Something that I've learned here on YouTube and just like trying to fit into the community of content creators in a world full of content creators is you can make the coolest videos ever. You can edit them to perfection. I spend hours sometimes perfecting details when I video edit. And, I come out with like a video that I feel like is aesthetically pleasing and just super sleek and super cool. But the topic or the content is not landing with an audience because it's not evoking emotion. So, similar to that, conspiracy theories, I think, gain their momentum by evoking emotion, right? It's got to be something that it can't just be something silly like, I don't know, like, oh, I think my neighbor's got a vampire in a coffin in his basement next door. Like, nobody's going to want to hear about that. But if you come on the internet and you tell people that there is a secret society of alien lizard people living in the house next door, they might listen to you, right? Because
right.
it triggers that, oh, reptilians, oh, world domination, being invaded by space invaders. And it, brings to mind like a whole lot of things that incites emotion from your audience. So that to me it's weird. It's like I don't know how to put this into words. It's funny how conspiracy theories grow and spread and move throughout society because of this reason, because they evoke emotion. So, and like the main emotions, of course, like I said, hatred and fear. And that's one of the things I find most interesting about it. Any thoughts? I know I filibuster. Feel free to jump in if you jump in anytime.
I was going to say something a minute ago. Let me see if I can remember it. It was when you were talking about the hatred being why. Mm-hmm. For the lesser conspiracy theories, it could also be fame, attention. We've got a couple of things in the cryptid community going on right now that I think are attention. But yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. That is a very good point to add to this. So going along with how there are so many like different variations and varying levels of conspiracy theories, like there's icebergs out there on the internet that you can look up. That's how crazy these things get. I would say, yeah, you could consider it a conspiracy theory to say like, oh, there was a dogman attack in Kentucky in the 80s, the early 80s. But there's no paper trail, there's no proof, there's no evidence, there are no bodies, there are no missing
police
persons,
report,
no police
nothing.
report, there's no physical evidence anywhere. But somebody has a story, somebody knows a guy. That's kind of a conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how harmful is that conspiracy theory to put out in the world? That one, that's kind of like, I wouldn't say that it's super minor, but it's definitely not cucumber status, right? It's
Right.
not in cucumber territory. So yeah, I mean, and those types of things, like it's just different. It's different when it crosses a certain boundary, but something like that propagates because it's scary to be like, oh, you know what, and it's just like an urban legend or like lore for your area. Like, every town's got like a version of the story of the guy with the hook in his hand or the ghost woman who asked for a ride on a rainy night. It kind of goes into that category where it's like, oh yeah, I think my uncle's best friend's dog's previous owner, he said that he heard about it on the radio one time when it happened. And, and it's fun. It's fun to tell these kinds of stories. But
It's
not
real easy to step over that line and start
Mhm.
personally attacking other people.
Right. And it's like, there's also a line, like a distinguishing line between fun folklore
Right.
and emotion, inciting fear.
Right.
So there's that distinction, and I want to make as many distinctions as possible so that this is not misconstrued, because I've always been someone who enjoys observing conspiracy theories. I've made a couple of videos throughout my YouTube career of conspiracy theories, not because I 100% believe them, but because the information's out there, and at the time it just seemed fun and interesting.
And people get serious about these things.
And that's something that I've said in the past, is that like I regret making these videos knowing what I know now. But at the time, conspiracy theories were still just like, they weren't quite to a boiling point yet. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I would have never made them, because I don't ever want to put anything into that arena or put anything out there that could be turned into something harmful or hurtful or, dangerous. But yeah, I always assumed that just because I didn't 100% take them serious, that other people wouldn't 100% take them serious. But apparently that's not the case, right?
Right.
So yeah, the momentum that they move with is pretty impressive. It's like, it's traveling and being propagated by fears. So if we were like FBI profilers and we're like building a profile of who's a prime candidate for conspiracy theory propaganda, so like we know that they're not like very well educated people. I know that sounds so derogatory, but it is what it is. That's my phrase for
They're
today.
probably people who aren't going to go and research
Right.
for themselves.
And, I know everybody and their mother says that nowadays on the internet, like, do your research. And I think, does anybody ever end up doing their research? I don't think so.
I do.
Well, I mean, conspiracy theorists, but.
Oh, no, I don't know about them. But I do.
I mean, I Google things all the time and read about them, and I read, as many opinions from as many sources as I can. And sometimes I don't always understand all the information, but at least, I gave it the old college try, and I have a little bit better of an understanding about it. And, whatever, I tried. But, if I don't fully understand something and I can't answer questions about it when asked, then I feel like I don't understand it well enough to put it back out there into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another important thing that people should consider with conspiracy theories is like, if you believe in a conspiracy theory, where someone can ask you, who's they? They who? Who are you talking about when you say they are doing this, they are doing that? Them, the elites, the shadow government. That's not an answer. It's definitely not an acceptable answer. And it's not, it basically means that you don't really have the full picture. You don't really know what it is that you are talking about, what you're putting out into the world, if you can't answer basic questions about it. So again, going back to who, what, when, where, why, and how. Always ask those questions. Let's see. So I always thought, find my notes here, if I could even read them. Any thoughts, by the way?
No.
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 Nope, I'm good.
You're saying everything that I'm thinking.
So we were talking the other day, and Rebecca told me, she's like, I never really got into the conspiracy stuff. And I was like, oh, here's a list to kind of get you started.
And let me tell you, that list was like almost 3 text messages long. And I was like, what in
Was it
the
that long?
world? Yeah, it was.
Really? On my end, it was one cube, one box, whatever. I'm trying to find that so I can just read it off. So here's what I told her. I was like, here's a good starting point. Just start Googling these words: reptilians, Bilderbergs, Rothschilds, Bohemian Grove, NWO. You guys know what that stands for. And then one of them that I gave her was, for a specific group of people. And I also noted that by saying that, like what I said before, people like David Icke or David Icke, they pick out groups of people to blame things on. And this is one of the strangest phenomenons, I think, in conspiracy theories. And this is one of the things that, like, this is when it gets into really harmful territory, I think, is like, if you're picking out a group of people to pin things on them, like ominous things that can't be proven true or false.
Things that potentially could destroy governments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things that are harmful.
Can cause wars.
Right, exactly. Like, what's your motivation for that? So going back to motivation, momentum, how are these things propagated? Hatred.
Snakism.
Yeah. And it's funny how, if you know anything about conspiracy theories, there's always, like, you always hear people say they, like I said a minute ago, it's always they. They are always endangering our way of life. They are always out for control. They are always, elite, rich, guarded. They are, segregated from the rest of society and live in their own little bubble of safety and money and wealth and excess and all. And the elites, they always point to elites, and elites have been like a common thread amongst conspiracy theories for probably going on 2 decades now. And used to, like, it's funny because I did hear one time back in like the late 80s or early 90s, I heard a story about how, there's this family, and there's only, there's a handful of people that run the world. they're in control of the whole world. And the shadow government, they want to control the world. Why? Who's they? And why do they want to do this? And how do they do this? And those answers are never there. You can never find those answers. It's always just kind of like, oh, well, because they're rich and they're evil. It's not a sufficient answer. But you always hear about like groups. And this is something we were talking about earlier about like clubs, groups, organizations like Bohemian Club. And you said something about country clubs, you know, like how people want to be part of like cool clubs, but they can't, so then they get mad, right? Or something.
Right. You know, people who have the money to join certain clubs or have the accreditation to join these certain clubs, and they have every right to do these things. But then you have the people who don't have what it takes to be a part of this club, and they're going to turn over heaven and earth to either accuse them of doing bad things there because, you know, they don't know what's going on, or they sneak into places and take videos and cause huge conspiracy theories.
Like Alex Jones.
Yeah. And it was all, you know, because he wasn't invited.
Right. And it's the weirdest thing. It's like, so basically your thesis here is that there are super rich people doing eccentric rich people things, and you
as
don't
they
like
have
it.
done for centuries.
Right. And conspiracy theorists don't like it. So it can't just be that they're weird people doing weird things, eccentric people being eccentric with all of their, you know, large amounts of money. And they're, you know, this is another thing too, is like, I wonder if these people actually know any really rich people in person, because I've noticed that people who are like really super rich are very strange people. They're
very
weird.
eccentric people.
And I think that, like, you know, like I come from the hollers of Kentucky, and I can imagine that if I never escaped, you know, at 18, 19 years old and went out into the world to see things and experience things, my scope would be that, you know, it would be so limited. I can't even imagine like the things that I might think or believe or feel. And it's funny how when, you know, you look at people like in the Midwest and in rural areas where there's like concentrated amounts of conspiracy theorist believers, I think this is another identifier. They tend to be people who, like I said earlier, are kind of in a bubble. They aren't as acquainted with worldly things. They aren't worldly people. They haven't, you know, I don't want to say uncultured swine, but but I kind of want to say uncultured swine, at least in some circumstances. I think the more narrow your lens is, the stranger things like this are going to seem. So when you have a group of hyper wealthy people, like, I don't know, the Rothschilds, you don't know anybody like that. You've never spent any time around people like that. You've never, you know, you don't know anything about that world that they live in, because, you know, they have their own lived experience too, in their own bubble, basically. You know, they're also kind of living a similar lifestyle, in a bubble of wealth where they're out of touch with the opposite people. So, but you're going to, you know, you're not going to understand them. And I heard a quote earlier that I meant to talk about this at the beginning of the stream to kind of preface everything. I heard somebody on TikTok say, opinion, just an opinion is the lowest form of human intelligence. The highest form of human intelligence is empathy. And I would go so far as to also say understanding, to be open-minded. I would say not just empathy, but to be open to other lived experiences and to be willing to recognize that just because you have a lived experience doesn't mean that other people have that same lived experience. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm getting parched. On my 12th Dr. Pepper for today. Not really.
At least you're not as caffeinated as you were earlier.
I know. I mean, I still am a little bit.
You
I've
had
been
the
hitting the
caffeine
coffee part.
sweats and
Yeah. It's been super hot in here today too. Like, I've had the air conditioner turned down and it just wasn't doing anything because technically it's not that warm outside. And then like I open the window and it gets humid and it's like my computer, holy cow, I spend 20 minutes in this room with this computer running and it's like 85 friggin' degrees in here instantly. It's awful. It is so awful. I don't know what's going on with the chat. I think everybody bounced, but the number's still kind of moving around. So if anybody's here, feel free to give us a sign of your presence. If anybody wants to chime in on this, if you want to ask questions, if you want to talk about this, that would be awesome. We can definitely have like civil discord about this because I know, unfortunately, a lot of people who are paranormal believers sometimes fall under the conspiracy theory spell, myself included. Like, I think conspiracy theories, bad ones aside, I think they're interesting and they're just, it's just something to theorize about. It's just something for your like crazy brain to kind of fixate on and come up with stories about. And I'm a natural born storyteller, so of course I enjoy mysteries and things like that. So and it's funny too how paranormal believers, and this is something we talked about earlier, I feel like there's a spectrum where the paranormal meets conspiracy meets political topics, and it's like the weirdest thing. And you would never think that politics and the paranormal could be on the same spectrum together, but the bridge between the two is conspiracy theories. Whether good or bad, they're there, right in the middle. And, like I said before, like you have all these different categories. Like you've got alien conspiracies. And those, of course, feed into government conspiracies regarding aliens. And then you have like conspiracies about cryptid creatures. Lots of people who believe in Dogman are big on conspiracy, and many of them really firmly, strongly believe that Dogman is, I guess, like a government experiment or something like that. And this is something too that we even saw from that Onion video, the famous Onion video. A lot of people think that Dogman is like a government weapon, like a bioweapon.
And there's breeding centers underground and
according to the Onion,
crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. I know in the past, Jody, when he's come on to talk about Dogman and just kind of dump all of the things that he's heard about and researched and stuff, he's mentioned several times that people claim to have seen Dogmen in, other countries during war. Fighting in wars. Very peculiar, very strange. So see, it's really odd how the paranormal kind of at some point morphs into politics. Isn't that strange?
Well, you have the men who stare at goats, where they tried to use ESP and, you know, militarize it.
And that, MK Ultra. So I wish I really wanted to get like my marker board and put it back here behind me so I could like scribble on it and do like a little chart thing, but I figured y'all wouldn't be able to see it that well. We were talking earlier about MK Ultra and like, is it the one outlier? Is it possible that it's like one of the very rare incidents that is true through and through? Although I feel like there are caveats to the stories about MK Ultra that are spread around on the internet nowadays. But at one point in time, I was researching stuff about MK Ultra, and it led me onto this weird rabbit hole situation where Aleister Crowley came up and witchcraft.
Goodness.
Yeah, and witchcraft and like trance channeling, conjuration of demons. Like it's weird how this is just like the strangest thing. I don't even know how to put it into words. How one conspiracy theory, like we know that there are documented cases of MK Ultra. Now, was it used in the way that internet conspiracy theorists say that it was? Probably not. But we know that there were some types of mental experiments done at some point in time. Why they were done, who conducted them, we have a little bit of information on that. At no point does it really seem like it's a they or a shadow government or an elite. Kind of just seems like it was a scientific study. And it is true that there have been some horrific scientific studies done throughout the history of mankind.
Incident.
That one I may not be entirely familiar with.
They took a group of college students, separated them into inmates and guards, and then put them in a set that they had built of like prison cells and stuff. And it developed into like position of power abuse very quickly.
Yeah.
And then you have the studies on syphilis that were done. They took what was it called? Give me a sec.
Cryptid, if you want to jump in here and talk conspiracy theories with us, I'll throw you a link if you want to come on.
The Tuskegee study, where they took between 1932 and 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service and the CDC took nearly 400 Black people and infected them with untreated syphilis without telling them that they had syphilis.
Yeah, that's horrific.
Yeah.
There's a documentary that came out a month or two ago about Black inmates being, exposed to like asbestos, I think. I don't know. I didn't catch everything in the documentary, I don't guess, or maybe I forgot. It was horrific. So, like, we know that there absolutely are incidents throughout history where certain groups of people have been absolutely brutalized in the name of science, which, like, it's despicable. There's really nothing you can say about it. It's despicable.
Right.
So MK Ultra, how unrealistic is it that they did cruel experiments on people in order to study the metaphysical side of the brain, to kind of figure out, like, you know, things about astral projection and things about mind control and psychic abilities, and
Well, just to see how far they could open up the human consciousness.
yeah.
And if they could use that to their own advantage.
Right. And I'm going to look this up. There was an actor. He cannot remember the details of his story. Oh, okay, Cryptid. Anytime you want to hop on, just let me know. I'll throw you a link. Yeah, I'm probably never going to find this. Oh, wait. Maybe this is it. Oh, shit. What did I click? No, New York Times, no. I hate their paywalls. When I open it on Safari, I can put it into reader view and bypass the paywall. Not with Chrome. This is not even what I was looking for. Anyway, there was an actor who was popular in the 80s and 90s. And I cannot remember now who it was. It's somebody that I like, but for some reason I just can't. I don't know. He claimed that he participated in college level scientific studies. So I guess like the college, either the one he attended or one nearby in his town, paid people to basically be human guinea pigs and come in and go through like this testing or whatever, where they would essentially take drugs and then do like weird mental tests on you. Now, like I said, I think MK Ultra is definitely like an outlier as far as the conspiracy theory stuff goes. It's one that's supremely popular because, I mean, that's terrifying, you know, to most people to think that you could be experimented on. But now, was it the government doing it? No, I mean, the government probably didn't really have any more to do with that than they do with any other scientific studies. They do have to fund scientific studies, and that's one reason that medications and treatments can either come out super fast to the market or they can never come out at all, is how much money the government's willing to give them, because scientists don't really generate enough money to perform scientific research, right? So now that's a pretty roundabout way. I would say that's the extent of the government reach, up until the point where they started using it for, I always want to call it the Dream Warriors, but that was like Freddy Krueger movie. What did they call the dream experiments? Do you remember?
Let me look.
I remember watching something about it on Sightings, I want to say, back in the early 90s, where they talked about these psychic studies that they did on people.
I'm just seeing dream research. Dreamcatcher experiment, maybe? I don't know.
No, they were basically psychic spies, pretty much. See, I'm Googling it too. I wonder if I can get away with reading this without YouTube like nuking my channel. Oh, and by the way, they didn't actually kill the goats with their mind. That was just in the movie. Yeah, they were remote viewing, which is basically like astral projection. Remote viewing and astral projection are like they're the same concept. There is probably some nuance to the variation in names, but I wouldn't say that it's really enough to make a difference. But just worth mentioning, I guess. And so, like, in astral projection is something that I personally have practiced. It's something that I've had experiences with, and it is. The phrase I want to use is like I don't know. I try not to cuss too much on here because I know it's crass, but it will F up your brain. We'll just put it that way. It's one of the most amazing phenomenons, I think, of like metaphysics and like the human mind. And I think this plays a role in the paranormal too. I've often wondered if like ghosts and stuff like that maybe come from something to do with mind projections. I always want to say like mind projections. That's kind of a weird phrase that I sort of made up. But I feel like all of this is connected. And this is one reason that I'm such a big proponent for the science community kind of joining forces with the paranormal research community, is to kind of come up with more answers about this stuff without maybe dosing people with LSD.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, if they can like give conformed consent, then if they're cool with it, that's one thing.
Right.
But like even in this article from Wired, psychic spies, acid guinea pigs, new age soldiers, the true men who stare at goats. Even in this article, they're talking about how they were dosed up with various hallucinogenics and what are they called? Psycho something or another drugs. I don't know much about drugs and medications, but
Psychosomatic drugs.
No, basically just hallucinogenics, I guess. But sometimes they weren't even aware that they had been given these drugs. So, but getting back to, how this factors into conspiracies, it's funny how, like, and this is something I asked you about earlier, where this has kind of turned into something else. Like we know that MK Ultra was kind of like this mind experiment thing, and it was dubious, but not quite as dubious as people want to make it seem like it was nowadays on the internet. Like, we've got people on the internet for the last 10 or 15 years claiming that Britney Spears is under mind control, that all pop stars are controlled, which I think is an endlessly fascinating conspiracy theory. This is actually one of my favorite old conspiracy theories because it's such a trip. And it got so big eventually that these pop stars who were being accused of being part of like MK Ultra, like they were MK Ultra controlled Illuminati puppets, they started making references in their music and their videos and their movies and stuff to kind of like throw the ball back to the conspiracy community, like, haha, do what you will with this. Beyonce has even mentioned in one of her songs, she said something about the Illuminati shit is corny or something like that. And, it got so big that these people started responding to it. Can you imagine, like, you work your whole life as an artist to kind of make it big, and then you get there and like you're working really hard and your dreams are coming true, and then all of a sudden there's a million people on your Instagram post saying that you're possessed by the devil, and you're being controlled by the government, and you're a clone. And can you imagine? I mean,
I really can't. I mean, it would either amuse me or it would get crazy real quick.
I had a guy one time, I don't even know how or why I was Facebook friends with him, but I made like a cool Photoshop picture of myself one time, and it was like there were like lasers coming out of my eyeballs and stuff like that. It's just a cool picture, and it was kind of like a messy Photoshop job because I wasn't as good back then. And I posted it as my Facebook profile picture, and this guy full on attacked me in the comment sections, or the section of my picture, and he's like, "I knew it. I knew you were an Illuminati puppet," and he was just going off about how I was an Illuminati puppet. And I was like, "Sir, it's just Photoshop. Calm the F down. Like, it's not that big of a deal." And it's just crazy. Like, I see people, some of the creators I follow on TikTok who do like political streams, they'll always, like, every single night, there'll be like a handful of people come in and be like, "You're being paid by George Soros," which, by the way, everybody should leave that poor old man alone. Oh my God. Like, I didn't even want to touch that one tonight, but like, just leave that poor old man alone. He's had a hard life. But people truly believe this stuff, and they like accuse content creators of it. And this one guy that I follow on TikTok, he has a Patreon. And you know how you can have different tiers on Patreon, like $5, $10, whatever. He's got one tier called the Daddy Soros tier, and it's like $10,000 as a joke, because they say he's being paid by the government. It's like, really? There are some times when I think that these people don't really believe the things that they're saying. Like, you can't truly believe stuff like that. I mean, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does it say? Bones don't fall over the edge, and that one's not a theory. Horizon isn't Earth curve. We can see hundreds of miles further. I'm not sure what you're saying. We'll never be able to see the curvature unless we can go to space. I'm not going to get to go to space anytime soon. I assume that you're probably not going to get to go to space anytime soon. Rebecca's not going to get to go to space. If she does, she better let me know so I can go too.
Girl, let me off this planet, for real.
So we can't see the curvature unless we get high enough out into the atmosphere to look down. A lot of people, and the flat earthers use this to no end. They love this one talking point of how, like, you can't see the curvature. It's always like a fisheye lens. It is true. There's always a shred of truth in every pile of baloney. I'm trying not to be a filthy mouthed animal tonight, because I know I am so often. But it is true that, we're too small and the Earth's too big. We can't see the roundness of it. And a lot of times when there's footage from, skydivers or whatever, they do have like fisheye lens. So the curvature that you see in a lot of the videos and pictures and stuff from just bystanders and civilians, it's not, it's not going to help either side of the conspiracy theory, because yes, they're fisheye lenses. No, we can't see the curvature. We're too small. But this is stuff that flat earthers use to back up their theory, right? So symbolism in Hollywood. Yeah. So that's another thing too. Like, we look at movies like Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, for example. Are you familiar with that one, Rebecca?
Yeah, I went into it thinking there was going to be a lot more to it and was so disappointed.
Well, I have no doubt that insanely wealthy people, being weirdos that they sometimes are, I'm sure they have debaucherous parties. I'm sure they do strange things like that. But then again, so do high school kids.
So
do college kids.
Certain state level government agencies.
Madison Cawthorn goes to orgies. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I was talking about like a personal experience whenever I worked for the state of Oklahoma.
Oh, care to share?
Maybe in a text message later.
I'm just joking. Yeah, so I mean, people do stuff like that. Like, I've told you about this. Like when I used to go to conventions, a lot of those convention people, they go there for hookups. They have debaucherous after parties after the convention closes down for the day. They get wild and crazy in the hotels, and there's lots of booze, and sometimes there's illegal substances, and it is what it is. So, but does that mean that they're Luciferian Illuminati puppets? No. It just means that they're just, just doing stuff and things.
People.
But yeah, people
do things.
Exactly. People just do things sometimes.
Yeah.
This is like, I just want to get like a banner or like cards or something and hand it out at conspiracy conventions. Like people just do things sometimes. It's not that deep, guys.
Hi,
Blair. Globe theory requires a were you here when I was talking about because we kind of went over flat earth at the beginning, and I don't know if you consider yourself to be a flat earther or if you're on the fence or whatever. I have actually seen other planets with my own eyes, and they're round. They're balls. So I don't know why the Earth would be. But I always just want to ask flat earthers that. In fact, I wish we could have flat earthers come on and kind of like talk about this stuff with us and like give us their take. Because I have so many questions for, and I would also like to talk to some conspiracy theorists who are kind of in the thick of it with the big crazy conspiracy theories right now, because I'd really like to know, who's they? Why are they doing what they're doing? So, okay, I'm going to put this on the screen. I have an answer for this. Round isn't sphere. Okay, well, I don't know which one to put on the screen. Let me do this one first. I've seen other planets, and they are spheres. It does not make sense that they would all be spheres and ours is flat. How would that be the case? Right? How do you explain that? If all of the other planets and things like the moon and other moons, if they're round, and there are people on this planet who have seen them and know for a fact that they're balls, 3-dimensional balls, why would the Earth be the only one that's flat? Now, if you guys would say something like, well, when the comet hit that killed the dinosaurs, it squished us down to a pancake, that might be believable. It flattened us out like a flitter, we're flatter than a flitter. I don't know what that means. That's an old hillbilly thing. Don't at me about that one because I have no idea what it means. Let's see. This one. I got an answer for you. So, okay, I suck at photography, but I am better with film. I tried to get into photography a long time ago. One of the things I wanted to do in photography was like stacking photos to make it escapes
Hi,
me.
Cryptid. We'll see you next week.
Oh, okay. Bye, Cryptid. Thanks for coming. There's a process, HDR photos. That's what I was trying to think of. Brain fart. When you take HDR photos, you have to take like dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of photos. I mean, an excessive amount of photos. Not every computer can even handle doing HDR photos, because what you do is, like, let's say you set your camera up outside at night and you want to get like a real bright shot. I'll find an example. A real bright shot of like the galaxies and the stars and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about, Rebecca?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find a picture to pull up for reference. Oh, here's one. Here's a good picture. Let me screen share this. Most people don't know. How do you take this picture? Does anybody have any idea how you capture, as a photographer, how do you capture a picture like this? because I can tell you, and this is the answer to the question that you just asked, or the statement that you made. So when you take a picture like this, you have to take, sometimes you could take 100, couple hundred pictures. It varies. We'll say, for example's sake, we'll say you take 100 pictures throughout different times of the night. Your camera is sitting there like, you know, in one stationary location. You take your pictures, and then you take them and you put them in like Adobe Lightroom. And what you do is you stack them. And by making like such changes, like very minor changes throughout this sequence of photos, you're able to capture super high bright points and super low dark points. So if you go outside right now, even with the best camera, and take a picture of the night sky, you're not going to take this picture. In order to capture a picture like this, you have to do it in HDR. Guess what else they use this process on? Photographing space. When people say, oh, the pictures we have of the Earth are not even real pictures, they're CGI. They're this. This is what they're talking about. This is not CGI. This is not fake. This is a very real picture. Is it manipulated? Technically, yes. But it doesn't make it fake. You see what I mean? So to go back to this, no, they're not computer-generated images. Unless you mean that they had to take hundreds or thousands of shots and then stack them all together and compress them to get one super exposed image. If that's what you call CGI, then they are CGI. Otherwise, they're not. And this is a theory that really bothers me because years ago, I had a friend who was like totally into like the flat earth conspiracy. And we would have these debates where I would just ultimately say, like, why does it matter? Who cares? Maybe the earth is triangular, like Illuminati confirmed shape, right? Maybe, like, who cares? Who cares what shape the earth is? Like, I'm more interested in what's outside of the earth. I don't care if the earth is round, flat, square, shaped like a dinosaur chicken nugget. I don't care. And then, you know, they throw this kind of stuff at you like, well, but did you know that the pictures are CGI? Did you know they're not even real pictures? So actually learned this because I had a friend who would continually argue me like, no, the blue marble that we see in all the pictures is not even real. What would be the point? Like, what would be the point of NASA or whoever showing us pictures at all? Like, if they had to just CGI these pictures, why not just either not do it or why not have a new one every day? Because if you're doing computer generated work, if you're like a computer graphics artist, you could do a picture a day. You could do 2 pictures a day. You could hire 5 graphic designers and you could have 25 new Earth pictures at the end of every week. That's not what they're doing. It's not computer generated, unless, like I said, you consider stacking photos to be computer generated. Does that make sense, Rebecca?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Something. I mean, yeah, like we were talking about this. Like, there are lots of things that are technically considered conspiracy theories, but to me, the defining feature of, you know, like, where do they cross the line is like, are they putting other people in danger? Are they derogatory? Are they hurtful? Are they dangerous even? Because there's a lot of that going on nowadays. And, you know, anything from like who built the pyramids to cucumber conspiracies, like, you know, they're not even in the same playing field. You know. That's just not true. That's like a full-on talking point. And I've had this discussion before with people. It's just not true. Are they HDR basically where there's like, you know, dozens and dozens or hundreds and hundreds of images stamped on top of each other? Yeah, but it's not photoshopped. And the whole thing with like, what is it? The continents are different sizes. Forced perspective. A lot of it is forced perspective. Now, when you do HDR photography, it's not uncommon to sometimes have distortion because keep in mind, the camera is not moving. But in the case of the Earth, the object, the subject is moving. So if you take, a week's worth of pictures of the Earth, you can't get the Earth to be completely still for a solid week, right? It's going to move. So it's not that they're like, the wrong size or not like they are. I think Rebecca's internet just died, I believe. She'll probably be back in a second. Yeah, so it's because the planet is moving. They can't make the planet stop moving in order to get still shots of it. It's pretty simple. Water is measured, in fact, used to establish Again, I'm not entirely sure, like, what you mean by this. If you could clarify that, I could probably give you like a better response, but I'm not entirely sure. But as far as like, clouds and stuff being photoshopped on, I mean, like I said, if I wish I could show you this process, like in theory, I could pull up Photoshop right now and I could demonstrate what I'm talking about. Would anybody sit here and watch a demonstration like that? No, probably not. So I'm not going to like try to ruin my stream by proving this point. But for anybody that knows anything about digital art, digital photography, any of these topics, it's not as big of a mystery as it seems like it is. There are so many things that come up in the realm of conspiracy theories where it's the theory itself is basically bred out of nothing more than misunderstandings, or the ability to not understand all of the evidence and the circumstance. So like, you maybe don't know enough about photography to know or understand HDR photography. You maybe wouldn't understand if you've never done it before if I tell you like, okay, if I do HDR photography and there's a few glitches in my picture that stacking has created that I would just like to refine and take out, I can go in with a pen tool, a brush, technically. It would be like a brush or clone stamp or something like that. And I can correct those minor details and I can make those details look smooth, look nice, look perfected so that I don't come out with a messy HDR photo. Does that mean that the image is bullshit? No. It doesn't mean that it's a fake image. It doesn't mean that the image is not authentic. It just means that it was digitally manipulated to look nice, basically. It makes it look good. No scientific evidence of Earth rotation. I've seen Earth rotation myself. I mean, I don't know how scientists don't know if I know that the Earth moves. Surely to God, the scientists know. If not, I need to get on the phone and call them. Welcome back, Rebecca.
Thanks.
Have to believe the equator is this doesn't make any sense. I mean, I understand what you're getting at, but this doesn't make any sense. Science knows that the Earth spins. Where do you think the sun goes? Like, where do you think the moon goes? It's spinning. Trust me. If you missed it at the beginning of the stream, I was talking about when we were kind of going over flat Earth a little bit. My experience getting to look through a telescope that costs more than a mansion, probably. And it was so magnified that the movement of the earth was like affecting me being able to keep an eye on, you know, what I was looking at. Because by the time I would look through the telescope, which the telescope wasn't moving, right? The telescope was stationary. But when I would look through it, the star or the planet or whatever would be like zoom. And so we would have to stop and adjust it so that I could like continue to look at it, because it was so magnified that it was overemphasizing the spinning of the earth. And again, this is like a perfect example. And I'm glad that you're like bringing these points up, because this is a perfect example of how conspiracy theories start. Most of the time with, you know, certain things, it starts with a lack of understanding about a particular subject, right? And I'm not saying that I'm like a space expert. I'm a little bit of a space expert because I love space. It's one of my favorite things, my favorite topics. But to the average person who doesn't have like a science degree, and you didn't spend years in college learning from a textbook or from an instructor, you're not going to understand all of the facets of space. You're not going to have like, you know, the deepest understanding of how everything works. So then that leaves a gap in knowledge and understanding that things like conspiracy theories can creep into. It's not a fallacy. It's not a fallacy. I'm telling you, I've literally seen the movement of the earth. I've literally seen other planets. I'm not the only person who's seen it. I mean, there are plenty of scientists out there who know way more about this subject than I do.
Oh, you don't know Sarah.
No, this person must be new. Like, are you new? Are you new around here? What is your motivation for believing that the earth is flat? Would you be willing, like if I send you a link, will you come on and talk to us right now? Rebecca, take over for a minute. I'm going to go pee.
Okay. Are there any other conspiracy theories, people in the chat, that you want to hear us talk about? I am not an authority on conspiracy theories generally. They confuse me. Canterbury, how long have you looked into this debate? Blair, are you talking about President Monroe? Oh, Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that she was murdered by several different people. Different conspiracy theories out there about that. Thank you for the Discord information. Maybe I'll pop in. I might look around. I usually don't talk on Discord.
What's cracking? What I miss?
We discussed Blair brought up Marilyn Monroe being murdered as a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's that one. Where does that one even fall on the conspiracy theory radar?
I mean, it can go all the way to being something that could potentially hurt people, just depending. I've heard several different theories about how she died and who did it and why. And
yeah, I'm not like a big Marilyn Monroe buff. I thought she OD'd. I don't know what I thought. I guess I don't really think much about Marilyn Monroe.
That's the general story, is that she OD'd.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely wouldn't be the first or the last in Hollywood to have a drug problem and take it too far.
There are people out there that say the Kennedy administration assassinated her.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff, like, I guess if you're the family of the person in question that the conspiracy theory is about, then yeah, that's kind of like, I wouldn't want people talking about my family in that
would be
context.
Hurtful to the family.
Yeah. But as far as like having a cultural impact, I don't think it does. So I guess that's why I never really paid much attention to that kind of stuff. I mean, we know that politicians, like we were talking about earlier with debaucherous parties, politicians do things and get into sticky situations. Does it mean that they whack people when they get out
there
of
is
control?
no mistaking the fact that the Irish mob was tied to Kennedy's regime.
Right. And that kind of stuff's a little bit out of my territory. I don't really know much about Kennedy. I mean, I know like the mainstream stuff, but again, it's not something I've spent a whole lot of time thinking about. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that that's not entirely unrealistic. I guess is it unrealistic, the stories that they tell about that?
No, not that kind of thing. No, it's it could have happened. I'm not saying that it did, but it's believable that life could have gone that direction.
Yeah.
I want to think that it was all against, without Kennedy's knowledge, because, he was a decent human being for the most part. He was human.
The earth is round, cannoli bear. I don't know.
Cannoli bear? I want a cannoli.
I think cannoli bear just sounds adorable, doesn't it? A bear made of cannolis? Delicious, nutritious, not really nutritious.
Adorable.
The earth is not flat.
No.
Come on here and explain to me why you think the earth is flat. That's a lot of 666s.
It is. I noticed that too.
You guys want to talk about 666? Let's talk.
No, we never did get around to.
Yeah, we never made it that
Number
far.
of the Beast.
So I learned a little something about the mark of the beast. Rebecca, you remember Satanic Panic?
Oh, very much.
Do you remember the days when things didn't have barcodes and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, put barcodes, oh my God, it's the end of the world.
People are going to put barcodes on your forehead. That's going to be the mark of the beast. Backmasking and all the music.
Yeah, and then eventually...
Anton LaVey is going to take over the world.
Exactly. They're going to stamp your forehead with a barcode and then, like, in the mid-2000s, they're going to put an RFID chip in you.
Yeah, now it's microchipping.
Bill Gates, sour cream and onion RFID chips. I say bring it on. I want the 5G capabilities.
Sour cream and onion sounds really good.
I know, right? I'm pretty hungry.
Yeah, me too.
So, Cannoli Bear, you might find this interesting. Did you know the origin of 666 is actually in reference to a person who already lived and died. They're gone. They've been gone for like, what, 1,000 some years?
Yeah, something like that.
Nero Caesar. This is really fascinating information. I wish I could pull up some references real quick, but I didn't anticipate us getting this far tonight, so I wasn't prepared for this portion of the stream. But if we revisit this, if this one does well and people seem engaged by this information, we'll continue on, because we didn't even get to cover half of what we have planned for tonight. But just in short, a quick summary is that Nero Caesar was 666. They didn't have numbers in this particular language, and I guess it was, let's see. Hang on just a second. I always spell Caesar wrong. I don't want to misquote this. Do you know if there was it, what was the specific language that they spoke?
In ancient Rome, it was Latin.
Was it Latin for sure?
Mhm.
Because I know, like, there's so many languages, especially like with the Bible. Like, there's so many,
Right.
you know.
Romans spoke Latin.
Okay, so they didn't have numbers to use in regard to codes that they were. See, they basically weren't allowed to talk about him outright. Okay, this is a short version. They weren't allowed to talk shit about Caesar. He would, I guess, smite you with his staff of whacking if you were caught talking shit about him, because I guess he was like,
he was fucking crazy,
egotistical egomaniac. So they created a code to reference him so that they could talk shit about him. This is true. You can look this up. 666 was the code in reference to him. All they were doing was trying to shit talk this guy. And somehow the Christians took this and turned this into end of the world hysteria. Did you know about this, Rebecca?
I've heard something about it.
This is a crazy story, because growing up in the South and the Bible Belt, I heard my whole life, like, oh, Revelations, the world's going to end, like all of this doomsday prophecy. None of it's true. Every single bit of it. There are people out there who know the truth about Revelations. They know that it wasn't even supposed to be included in the Bible. They know that the mark of the beast is in reference to Caesar. It has nothing to do with anything going on now. It never has. And yet everybody's terrified of the mark of the beast. And this one is like, oh my God, this one is a deep-rooted topic when it comes to conspiracy theories, because there is so much feeds off of this particular topic. Everything from, like, I mean, there's a whole religion founded on it.
Y'all, if you lived through the Satanic Panic, believe me when I say all of this stuff is just nauseating. Whenever it comes to people making up this stuff to terrify you.
Yeah.
I mean, even one of the big weapons of the Christians at the time was a comedian named Mike Warnke, who claims that he used to be in a satanic cult and then became a Christian, and then he later admitted that nothing he had said was true. None of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Satanic Panic was people in that time bucking against the new kind of rock and roll that was coming out, the glam metal and the shock metal and all of that.
You remember, like, with Kiss, Knights in Satan's Service?
Yeah. And now you listen to Kiss and it's like, wow, they are so tame.
Pop music goes harder these days than Kiss did back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Holy cow, like, Kiss is nothing compared to music today.
Right. And Motley Crue, they used the whole Satanic Panic just to shock everybody and brand themselves.
Yeah. Marketing
So,
strategy.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
6 is a smart dude. He is a
Yeah.
smart dude.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorite people on the planet. Love him.
Yeah, I was like Motley Crue.
Well, they're all good people except, Tommy. He's wow.
Yeah, so Blair said something interesting. I mean, and it's like, I'm telling you, I'm probably not doing this video justice because, like, I don't know, hashtag health problems and stuff, but I'm trying to keep it as coherent as possible because this is such a big, important topic. The way that conspiracy theories are tangled up with our pop culture and our way of life and how they've become so prominent in the last few years, and how much control they have over such a huge portion of people, at least in the United States. I don't know how far reaching it is. I don't know if, like, I've heard that people in Germany and people in Canada and people in, a handful of places are kind of buying into the stuff that's popular in the United States, but it's just so weird how everybody nowadays seems to believe in conspiracies when used to 25 years ago, these exact same people would have never believed these types of things. I mean, it's just like, and that I think is the big question, is how did we get from point A to point B? And I feel like I have an answer for it, but I wanted to kind of deconstruct this topic before we go that far, with it. And like, my God, there's so much that we didn't even get to touch on at all.
Right.
And
It's 2 hours already.
Yeah, it flew by.
Yeah, it did. It sure did.
Is there anything we didn't even get to make fun of Alex Jones at all?
Other than, the first minute of the show. Turning the frogs gay.
That's a bop, I'll tell you. I love
Blair,
that song.
To address that, the Bible is written in metaphor. Everything that, like the Old Testament for certain, is written in metaphor. The Jewish people, they tell stories in metaphor every day. And it goes all the way back to biblical times, all the way back to Old Testament times. And it's not meant to be taken literally, I don't believe. But people have gotten to the point that they do take it very literally.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just such an endlessly fascinating topic to deconstruct and pick apart. And, I mean, and even
Canada Bear.
Yeah. Yeah, just wait, I've got a surprise at the end of the video. You know what? Let's just
play it now.
Yeah. Let's just
get it over with.
Let's just do it. I know it's your favorite song too, Rebecca.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I'm putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay.
I need a paper.
It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Gay frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like a frog. Gay friggin' frogs. Frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Frogs. Place point.
The part that gets me every time is the freaking frogs. Freaking frogs.
I love when he slams his paper on the freaking frogs.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Imagine getting that mad on national TV or wherever. I don't even know. Like, who watches him? I don't know, but like his live streams or
I do
something,
not.
maybe. Those are the kind of explosive temper tantrums I aspire to have on live streams. I'm scooting my microphone, by the way. I know it's going to sound
Sure, that's
awful.
what that was.
No, I'm cackling into the microphone, so I'm trying to scoot it back so I don't like. I need to put little
I'm
wheels
getting
on
one
it.
of those articulating arm mic things.
Yeah, I
So I can
definitely.
move it out of the way.
I should totally get one of those. I don't know why I haven't.
You can find them pretty inexpensively.
Oh, I know. I don't know why I don't have one. I guess because like what I have works, but when I cackle, like I try to mute myself, but I just realized I was like, oh, I'm close to the microphone. I better scoot it back a little. So anyway, how do you think we did tonight? We didn't even like get past the surface, did we?
For the most part, I think we stayed on the outline. For the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever going to be a night that we don't go off topic.
I mean, that's fine, as long as we like kind of, freaking frogs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully we got a good, decent start in case we want to continue this topic at some point in the future, because I just feel like we should do a multi-part to this because there's so much to talk about.
There are so many. So many. I'll look and see, detail the conspiracy theories that I believe in, and hopefully not go down the rabbit hole I went down this week that just made me want to lay in the street.
I understand. Yeah. I know what you mean.
I did learn a fascinating amount of things about the Ashkenazi. I mean, that's fascinating. They can trace their lineage back 80 generations to biblical times and 350 people. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's something we should focus on too, is like how can we like use this information in a positive way? Like how can we make this positive? Is there a way to make conspiracy theories positive? I don't know.
We can try. We seem to make the paranormal stuff negative.
We do? This is news to me.
No, we're just always debunking everything. This isn't real.
Well, realism.
This is Photoshop.
Truth is always a good thing.
I agree too. Transparency is a good thing.
Why do you keep saying celestial navigation requires a flat plane? Get on here sometime. We're ending for now.
For real.
Explain to me.
Okay. ParanormallyCorrect at hotmail.com or ParanormallyBecca@gmail.com. Hit us up. We can invite you on the show. We can discuss things. I'll have to, look some stuff up first, but hey.
Yeah, we'll have to do a lot of Googling as we go. I'm not even going to pretend like I am superior in my knowledge of like sea navigation or, whatever. I don't know. Like, all I know, listen, I've got a lot of horse sense. I may not have as much book smarts as other people, but I got a lot of horse sense, and I have seen round planets, and I've seen our planet move. That's all I need to know. I'm convinced. Also, I know where the conspiracy theory came from about flat Earth, and I don't believe it. So why would I believe the Earth is flat? But yeah, we talked about fisheye lens a little bit, and how like we're too small. We would never be able to see the curvature of the Earth unless we went higher. You would have to go like actually out into the atmosphere. But that's not really, that's not evidence, It's not like any type of usable proof, really. I've been here and done that so many times with the flat Earth stuff. I feel like there's not really anything that I want to look up in regards to supporting flat Earth theory. I will gladly look up things that debunk flat Earth, but yeah, I'm probably honestly I'm not going to Google anything about flat Earth. But yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up for the night. I have no idea how we'll ever be able to get like a coherent, cohesive conspiracy theory video out there, but we're going to probably try it again in the future and try to hit some of the other topics that we didn't get to tonight. Anything else, Rebecca, that we want to throw out?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I won't tout my Twitch. Not
What
during
about-
the stream. I said I won't tout my Twitch.
Oh.
The whole point of even having it is to bring people here. So.
Alrighty. So, well, I guess, I guess that wraps it up for tonight. If anybody wants to come on, like if you have any experiences that you want to come on and talk about, whether they're paranormal, extraterrestrial, cryptid. etc., anything, feel free to contact us. Email will be in the description box. We'll get you scheduled to come on. We can also record and then play it if you have stage fright, if you don't want to be on a
if you don't want to be live.
Yeah, so we can also do it that way. That's always an option. If your story is interesting enough, it's got to be interesting for me to edit that much video footage. You got to have a good story for that, but still is an option. All right, guys, we are going to go. It is 11:11. It feels right. Don't get eaten by dog man.
Don't get abducted by aliens.
And stop believing in flat Earth.
Night, guys.